Hola, buenas tardes, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Edgar Palacios. I run Revolución Educativa. We are a community organization, a 501c4, working to build Latinx power in our community, um, particularly and in support of educational policies that positively impact our Latino students. Um, we are also a sister organization to the Latinx Education Collaborative. But we can talk all about that in a little bit. This is our first episode of Revved Up. Revved Up is a podcast live stream, depending on where we are in the day, around really talking to Latinx candidates, thinking about how we can, what kind of learning about from them first and foremost as to why they chose to run, what policies they think are important to address, how do they see themselves as making a significant impact. And so today, I'm excited to bring you our first guest, Diosselyn Tot, who is running for KCKPS School Board. Welcome, Diosselyn.
Hola, muchas gracias. Buenas tardes a todos. Hope everybody is doing great. And I am very honored to be here. And I'm excited to see where this conversation goes.
Me too. So we're learning here. I'm also practicing asking questions. I'm learning how to maybe not ask the most comfortable questions, but really think about how we engage with candidates and maybe even electeds at some point, right?
Yeah,
So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you are joined us to participate.
thank you. No, I'm excited. I'm excited. And definitely we're going to get that seat and hopefully bring a lot more perspectives in. And yeah, well, I'm excited. Let's get started with the conversation.
Cool. Well, before we jump into the hard political stuff, let's find out a little bit about who you are. ¿Quién sos? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, man. I've always tried to concise my story as much as I can. But definitely let me know if I need to fill in a little more. So, soy de Guatemala. My parents brought me here when I was 6 years old, and I started elementary school here in KCK. That was the first place that I saw in the USA. Estuve aquí por varios años. Honestly, I've been here ever since. I've grown up in KCK. I love KCK. It's what I know. It's home. It's my second home. So from there, um, we overstayed our visa. And once we overstayed our visa, we had to go through this different process of immigration and just trying to figure out what that looked like. I was very young, so I didn't quite fully understand what was going on, but I could tell something was happening. It wasn't until high school that things got a little bit more, they were always real, but it got really real. And at that moment, we had a blessing in disguise where we were able to find a pathway through citizenship through the U visa. And a U visa is when a crime was committed to you or your family member, and therefore there's some avenues and resources that are available. So that's why I call it my blessing in disguise. And after doing that battle, another battle came for me personally, which was my education. I had to fight for my own scholarship that I had been working for since I was in middle school. It was a full ride scholarship, so it was very important. It was the only way I was going to go to college, to be honest with you. There was no other way that I could have gone to the University of Kansas. But on that, I was able to get trained for college prep. Went to Sumner Academy after going to Argentine middle school, and graduated from Sumner Academy with my IB bilingual diploma and also my high school diploma. So at the age of 16, 17, I was on the way of going to college. And then all of a sudden, they told me, you can't do it because you have no scholarship. Colleges and universities started refusing to review my application because of my status. I was legal, but the question wasn't if I was legal. It was if I was legal enough. And unfortunately, I wasn't. I wanted to become a doctor. That totally derailed everything that I was going for and had been working for a while. And then had to reroute. I had to learn. I had community. I had mentors who were very key essential teachers that told me to get up and remember what I had done, and I did just that. They connected me to lawyers, community lawyers that we all know and love, Teodoro Garcia and Raymond Rico, and they helped me fight for my scholarship, and they helped educate. Honestly, they helped educated a lot of people on my status, and I was able to go to the University of Kansas, KU, Jayhawks, and I graduated in 2017 with my bachelor's, minor, and several certificates. And now I work back in the community. So that's a concise story of me.
No, I appreciate you sharing. I think part of what we look in leaders is their ability to be vulnerable in spaces and be able to one connect with the community at large, but also be willing to share some of the more difficult part of their stories. I think that breeds transparency. I think that builds trust, and so I appreciate you doing that. I'm gonna take you back a little bit. Because I think it's really interesting your particular experience, right? So you belong to a scholarship program. You thought you had an opportunity to go to college, and then you see yourself all of a sudden taking that being taken away from you. What does that feel like in the moment?
Oh, anger, anger, confusion. Um, I was very depressed, and you can still even hear it in my voice. My voice starts breaking a little bit, and it's just because I didn't understand why. I thought that I had done everything right, and it didn't seem like I had. So there was a lot of questioning on just why things were as such. But again, thankfully, I had friends, I had mentors, I had community that really, honestly, if it wouldn't have been because of them, I wouldn't have gotten up. And I'm thankful that I did, because I was able to come back to my community and give 110% more back to it.
I appreciate you elevating community. I think that is something that I think as Latinos we are very proud of our community and where we're from, and we also understand that this is a collective conversation. It's not as individualistic as we can make it sometimes, and so I'm also grateful for the people that were able to inspire you and breathe life into you, because here you are, right?
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite moments of you, it could have been this year, it could have been late last year, was seeing your picture as you became an official citizen of the United States.
Yes, yes. That has been a long time coming. Years and years of waiting. My fight started since I was 6. It started with my parents. My fight started with my parents when they decided to come here, right? And it's great to say that it's been worth it. Years and years later, 20 plus years later, we were able to become citizens, and I was able to share that moment with my mom and have that ceremony during the pandemic, but it was still amazingly great. Still a great feeling. And honestly, I always said it. This was something that I was waiting for, and now it opens up a lot more opportunities of how I can give back.
I also appreciate you sharing about overstaying your visa. Is that correct?
Yes.
It took me until a couple of years ago to even question how my parents not came to this country, but how they were able to receive citizenship or start that process. I remember you never know what your parents are going through first and foremost, right? And I think growing up, we have very little context for what their lives are actually like and what they're navigating and what they're trying to accomplish. And for me, happy go lucky. I'm out there living in Miami with my family. Like everything's good. I have no concept or understanding of immigration in terms of like the actual challenges at the federal level, at the state level, and those things that are happening. And I remember a couple of years ago, the timeline finally clicked for me. I was like, wait a second. My parents came to this country in '81 from Nicaragua. I think they were on a traveler's kind of visa, right? So they came in and they were going to just stick around for a couple of weeks and have a good time. And then they didn't. They ended up filing for political asylum. And I assume, listen, I still get mixed answers from my parents on this. I assume they were successful in, being designated asylum recipients. But then Reagan
Hmm.
showed up and he was like, we're going to give everybody in here, not everybody technically, but a lot of folks got got to become permanent residents at that time. So parents are staunch. They were staunch Republicans until recently, and so really curious as to how your parents have navigated the political environment as well.
Yeah. So honestly, como le conté, soy de Guatemala. Entonces, lo que estaba pasando en Guatemala during those years is that we had a really bad dictator. And I learned this because my dad came and presented to my high school Spanish class. So what I found out was that there was a really bad dictator in Guatemala due to a lot of consequences and a lot of history that I really could go into, but that would be a whole nother talk about that. Unfortunately, the military started taking power and control over a lot of citizens, especially against religious individuals and indigenous tribes, and trying to genocide them pretty much. So there was a lot of corruption, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of individuals who got taken to prison. My dad was actually one of them. He got taken to a secret prison because he was a pastor, and missionary work it's missionary work was you're gathering people, and that could cause a lot of ripple effects, right? Politics systems and everything that happens. Because of that, my dad had to figure out how to sustain jobs, had to leave Guatemala for a while. One of the things he ended up doing was bringing cars back and forth, and he went to a different states in the U.S., came to Kansas, loved it. I think we all had that American dream at one point, and they decided to come. My mom came after, then we came after them. My sister, I have two sisters, and my oldest sister is actually still in Guatemala. So there was years before we were able to see my sister. Yeah, I was able to see her 4 years ago, after 18 years of not being able to see her. So there was a lot of different things that took place to be able to be here, and the transitioning on how we got here, and how we developed everything out. And like you said, I think when I was growing up, I really didn't understand, but when I had to fight for my education, everything changed. It was another blessing in disguise, and definitely made me way stronger. It made me understand the things that are, and try to figure out how to make it easier for others to come, because that's what we're here for, right? Es para la próxima persona.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you on that. Modelando el camino, right? Like making sure that people understand how to move in these spaces, how to navigate these spaces, and then also how to retain some of your identity along the way, which is part of your gift, right? It's what you bring to the table. Diosselyn, I'm curious, as you share your experiences, um, what do you how do you think that resonates with parents and students in KCKPS? Do you think your experience matters? Do you think that your experience provides a different type of perspective that is needed at the district level? Or tell me how your story should resonate, or you think resonates with students and parents within the district.
Yeah, 100%. You asked if it matters. Yes, of course. My story, I feel I share with many different students still. And I was a product of Wyandotte County. I went through everything. I was first generation as well, which is a lot of first students still in the district. I'm migrant. I went through the process. I had to learn how to be that voice for my family. I was also an interpreter at an early age. And our school district is one of the most diverse school districts ever. We have over 44 languages in our school district. We have over 51% of Hispanic Latinos communities in there representing. And then we have a lot of different individuals from different communities, the Black community, Asian community, Nepali, Burmese. Now we have different ethnicities within even the Latino community, right? We're expanding out. So my experience, I feel, matters for so many different reasons. One, because I share a lot of similarities with the students. I had the same experiences that the students are still going through up to this day, which is very at times frustrating, but at the same time, that's why I want to make a change. And at the same time, I'm going to understand a lot better coming from that perspective of what's to come. We had different changes. We are at new horizons. We're changing. We're in a shift in our district right now. And I want to be able to continue to add on to that shift. There's a lot of groundwork that has been done for us. In 2015, Irene was appointed for the school board, Hispana, Latina, finally, right? And then in 2017, we had the first elected Latino, Randy Lopez, and then he became the first board president, Hispano. There's already people that have paved the way, and it's our turn to start adding on to that and start expanding it out for the next ones to come. And that's why I want to be able to be in our school district. I feel like I'm going to bring that perspective. I know the experience. Un- just like many others, I've had to mature at an early age, and honestly, I've came back stronger from it, and just I feel skilled to come in and be able to voice our concerns. I was an organizer for years after what happened to me, because that's what I needed to do to come back and make sure that it didn't happen to anybody else. And thankfully, I've been able to help a lot more individuals that I would have if I would have just stayed at home, right? So I feel my story matters, just like many other of our students' stories matters. My experiences as a first generation matters because I understand all the different things that overwhelm you, and how sometimes your parents can give you the support but may not be able to walk ways, but they are resources. And I hope to be able to bring all those different things. I'm very community grassrooted. I worked in policy, so I want to bring in all these different skills and continue to pave way for others.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna, you know what? Since I can, I'm gonna go in and lean in on a couple of questions for you. Um, so tell me what you think KCKPS is doing right as a district.
I really like the fact that they started figuring out social trauma curriculums and implementing them. I've heard a lot of really great reviews on teachers seeing the effectiveness of it and how our students are going to need it. If you looked at the mental health awareness that we have, it's starting to grow for a couple of years back when we started implementing the social workers, and it just keeps adding on. And I'm very happy to see that because we're going to need it. We've had really tough years, a lot of losses in many different ways. Um, the world has been the world lately. So I feel like our school district has done a great job at trying to keep us safe as well by implementing the masks, to making sure that we keep everybody as safe as possible as we try to figure out this pandemic. I've also really enjoyed seeing the different communication skills that they're starting to implement and how to navigate the concerns that people bring up. I do understand though that there's still a lot of more work to be done, but they've done a great way of starting to shift.
I'm curious to what you think are some of the opportunities that you see the district where you think you can be beneficial in supporting them.
One of the ways that I feel like I could be really beneficial would be that diverse perspective coming in. As much as I do have my story, my work also implements all these different skills. As I mentioned, I've been an organizer through housing, through immigration, through education, in a lot of different ways, and still am in many different boards trying to represent our voices and still trying to bring in different stories that way. So I feel that I can come in with that different perspective of readiness, which is race, equity, diversity, inclusion, and continue to add that on into our school systems in the many different ways that it can still be added, because again, we're still shifting. And the other ways is, again, we want achievements for all. And I feel one of the things that we do is we have those testing scores to try to figure out. We have to see how we achieve success for all, right? And I am a strong believer that as much testing as we do, we also need exposure for our students so they can see individuals like us, different job descriptions. We have great resources in the community like KCKCC, Donnelly, that have payments of getting connected to a university after doing your basics. There's so many different things that are just right here at home that I hope we start connecting a lot more than we already are. Because again, there has been that foundation started, but we still need to continue to connect to these different organizations that are helping communicate, that are helping debrief information that maybe we can't get a reach of these individuals, but they are. So how do we continue to build those partnerships? I'm much grassroots and community driven, as you can tell. I love all these different collaborations that can happen between individuals because we're stronger together. And it takes a village to do all of this work. It's not only us, right? So in that way, I want to be able to bring in all that different experience and skills that I had to use to connect and develop different resources and see how I can help expand what's already there, and hopefully start integrating a lot more different changes that we want to see. And as that matters as well with communication skills, because I'm connected very much with different grassroots organizations and just very much tied to my community. I mean, they've seen me grown up. They've seen me go little by little climbing. They've seen my downfalls. They've seen also my getting back up and standing back up. So with that, I feel very confident being able to be a listening ear and knowing when to hear the concerns of our community, of our teachers, of our students, and be able to continue to bring that perspective into the board and that representation and that voice. Again, like you said, I've practiced a lot of skills to be able to get to this point. And I know that I love community input. I stand for that. I've done it. I had made many different projects with many different teachers and collaborators. And I want to be able to continue to do that and hopefully at a bigger scale.
I'm going to pivot just to your candidacy in general. Curious for you, is this your first political campaign?
As a candidate, yes.
As a candidate, yes.
As an organizer, no.
So now you're on the other side. You are the face of a campaign. You clearly have values that you believe in. You clearly have ideas that you want to bring into the elected role. Tell me, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. So I'll start with the first one. What have you learned being on this side of a campaign?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to do them one.
Oh no, if I'm gonna forget them if I don't like hit them one at a time.
I had my note ready. What have I learned from going as an organizer to a candidate? The biggest things that I had to get comfortable with was sharing my story, because it was much harder than I thought it would be. I really had to figure out that center point to be able to continue to let it be my story and my own voice and not feel like I was going another way with it. So definitely that was one of the biggest things. The other thing that I had to learn as a candidate now is just being able to be very flexible with what's to come, knowing that some things work here, but some things don't work that way, and we have to shift and re-navigate different points and individuals and perspectives. But it also shows the development and growth and trying to figure out how to continue to stay true to myself. I think those were the 2 biggest things. Everything else I feel like is very standardized. Understanding the numbers, understanding what you need, understanding the materials, trying to figure out how do you represent yourself as well and be able to really speak on the points that you want to speak to, because you only have maybe 4 sentences that you can do it in, and that's really hard to try to concise everything in one. But those were the biggest shifts that I had to learn. It's much easier to be doing different things in the background than being that voice and making sure that we're a good representation. Not only representation, but a good one, just like my campaign manager said.
That's a loaded statement, and so I'm not going to push you on that right now. I'll push you on that on a different day.
Okay.
But I have some thoughts on that I think we should discuss further. Second question: what has surprised you?
Honestly, the young individuals that have came out to support me. I feel like my team is very much made of young college students, young organizers, young professionals. And I'm so excited to see them in this realm and just seeing how they're developing and growing and how they're taking charge and really showing up and, showing up because they believe in the cause, they believe in me. And that means a lot. I think that's the biggest things that I didn't know how it was going to come and if it was going to come. But I'm very happy for the people that are surrounding me. And in my campaign page, we actually are shouting out every teammate. And every Tuesday, look out for it. You'll see every teammate that's in there, and they're there for a special reason and because they have great skills. They're all involved in community in one way or another, and their career paths tie with social services as well.
My final question for you on this 3-part journey here: what's one thing that you wish you would have known prior to announcing your candidacy?
Timeline. Time scheduling, just how fast it can go. I feel like I have weeks before this event, and then all of a sudden it's here, and there's the next thing to do, and the next thing to do is nonstop. So yeah, I kind of wish I would have prepared a little bit more, but I don't know how I could have prepared for that. But it has been a journey. It has been really great, and
Yeah.
just yeah, I'm meeting so many great, amazing people at the same time. So it's been a great experience overall. It's going to be a great experience.
I'm glad to hear you say that, and I think that's actually some of our responsibility as we think about how we help support candidates and how we help support folks that are wanting to get involved in the political space or in policy and advocacy roles. What are those things that people get hung up on, right? And I think timeline is absolutely one of those that I tend to see continuously. Um, Sometimes you got to get it, not even months, but years ahead out of a campaign, and in order to build out the relationships and to build out the finances and everything that comes along with that. So thank you for sharing that, and that's something that we'll definitely think about moving forward as well as part of our work. Um, Final question for you overall:
Yeah,
why should people vote for you?
because I want to be a good representative. I want to be able to bring that voice. I'm confident that I have the skills. I'm confident that I can share my experiences and be able to connect with others and be able to hear them out at the same time. I'm skilled at what I do. I've been preparing for this. It's one of the things that I was waiting for was my citizenship, and I'm glad it did, and I'm glad that I can start paving the way for others. So if you believe in our community, please vote for me. I believe in our community as well. And I believe that we can create a change and we can create a ripple effect that not only I'm the first person or the last, that it can continue happening. We can continue to inspire other Latinos that maybe are thinking about it, maybe are thinking of that timeline. Is it the right time? You never know. But the one thing is that doing it is going to create the changes that we want to be able to see. And as much as I fought for my education, I want to be able to fight for others' education because I believe that we have gems in Wyandotte County that are yet to blossom, that are yet to come to fruition. And we're in the map. There's so many others that have made it, and we have to celebrate them so our generations to come can see that they can be there and further. So vote for me because I believe in our community. I want to make the changes, and I am very much ready and passionate to do this work.
Well, thank you, Diosselyn, so much for participating today in this conversation. I know it's a quick conversation, but I know you have plenty of other events and other things to get to. Um, Appreciate you being honest and thoughtful around your experiences and having the vulnerability to share your story with our community. For those of you who joined us, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to connect with the Diosselyn candidate for KCKPS School Board. When is that election, by the way?
November 2nd. And if
November
you
2nd.
want to register, no worries. You have until October 12th to register, and there's so many different resources. Connect with me, and our team will be more than happy to help you. And honestly, again, I can give a lot of resource to you, Edgar. I'll send them over by email so you can share out with everybody. I'm a
Uh,
little bit of a nerd on this.
it's good to nerd out on this. It's important. Details matter when it comes to running campaigns.
Yeah.
Understanding when people need to vote is a big part of it too.
Yes,
Uh,
and if you don't mind me saying this one
yeah.
last bit, there's 3 open seats for the USD 500. There's 5 candidates, y yo soy la única hispana. So come out and support me because I'm trying to have our voices be represented furthermore.
All right, you heard it from Diosselyn. Thank you so much again. For those that joined us, I'm Edgar Palacios, Executive Director of Revolución Educativa. We're a 501c4 organization working to build power in the Latinx community, specifically when it comes to issues in education. And then also, we are a sister organization of Latinx Education Collaborative. So thank you all for joining us. Diosselyn, good luck to you, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. Have a great one, everybody.